Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 91 of Speaking from the Heart. I hope that you've been staying consistent with your goals since the new year, because today's episode is about checking in and seeing how you're doing. And I know that it's very hard to have this conversation. It might be facing the truth. It might be facing the hardships. It might be facing what you've been putting off for the longest time. It's been over 2 months since the new year started. Have you been successful in what you've been setting up for yourself? Have you been creating that best value in your life, helping to push the needle forward, regardless of what obstacles, transitions, other issues that might be facing you and your whole entire existence at this point? Has it been really tough for you to keep those resolutions, those things that have been on your mind for so long, way before this new year even started? Are you feeling a little bit of guilt, shame, hurt, pain, maybe resentment that might be holding you back from maybe tackling what's ahead? Well, you might be part of the 78% of people that have already given up. Because by this time, as you listen to this episode, less than 22% of people who had made resolutions have stuck with them for the first 2 months. So if you are listening to this and you have been consistent with everything that you've been doing, you are part of a very elite group of people. Less than 1/4 of people overall that have been able to accomplish those opportunities that they set forth. But it doesn't mean that for those that have given up, that all is lost. And I really want to spend some time talking about what we have talked about in this show previously, in addition to the fact that we have this opportunity still to make things come alive. I want to be consistent with you. I want to be able to stay attached to what you are dealing with, and I want to help you continue that path that you set out originally before the new year started. If you remember back from episode number 65, which you haven't had a chance to listen to, I encourage you to do so now. We talked about preparing for that next adventure in the new year, in which we shared a lot of different things that we should be breaking the cycle of. Not only those bad things that we've been wanting to do and break the habit of, but we also talked about how we can address those problems, those situations, those concerns, those things that have been long lost, and your ability to be able to not only navigate through those different problems that you've had from being consistent with your resolutions, but even making that simple plan to move forward. Simple, right? That was the intentionality of what we wanted to set out with. That small, infinitesimal idea, that goal that we wanted to create, that opportunity that we wanted to excel in, that dream that we wanted to master. Those things that we often talk about that are opportunities, dreams, or aspirations all stem from one thing. We wanted to make progress. But was the progress that we were hoping to make by this point way too large? Is there a way in which we can take a big step back and maybe look at how we can break it down even smaller than what you had originally thought was small to begin with? Every time that we talk about something that is bite-sized, we're talking about things that are able to be manageable. It's enough for us to be able to say, yes, I am able to do this. But at the same time, take a big step back and think about what are the ways in which we can work on those goals. Those goals are not just the things that we set out to do, but it's also the magnitude of them that will fundamentally change everything about ourselves. It could be about our appearance, whether in the physical or mental sense. It could be the skills that we're learning, new knowledge and new abilities that we otherwise wouldn't have. Or it could be as simple as changing something that we normally don't even think about twice, but just making that small adjustment to make ourselves feel a little bit better about ourselves. Regardless of what that intention is that you're trying to set up, or even create for that matter, being this far into the game of this 2024 year means that you have to learn that sometimes things happen for a reason. The same reasons that we think that we're going to be successful don't always necessarily translate into being able to become successful. What I mean by that is when we have this idea of what success looks like, it often gets warped. It gets manipulated by not only the things that we have going on, the things that happen on the day to day, but also on the things that we change about ourselves. We have changed already since January 1st of this year, and reaching this point in which you're listening to this episode in March of 2024. That small amount of time, whether it is a lot of time or small amount of time, can make you understand that maybe the things that you had on your plate have morphed and have evolved. And now with even more things coming up and gearing for even the spring season and even the summer season, especially if you're living in the United States, or even the fall or winter season, depending on where you are in the world, you have to learn the fact that these moments in which we're embarking on mean that we have to take a look at not just what has happened, but what has transpired in our lives to make us change, make us not be able to accomplish what we ultimately set out to do. I think that we always need to have a reminder of what those goals are that we're trying to achieve, because when we have them staring right in front of us, they are able to be magnetized to not only the thoughts and the emotions that we feel every day, but allows us to set the course for the rest of that day. Even if we're able to spend 30 minutes to an hour on working on some of those goals, that can make such a big difference. That means being intentional about scheduling that time, setting aside that ability for us to grow in that opportunity, but also learn and adapt and evolve to that overarching opportunity that we have presented to us. We have to think about how we can be ambitious to chase after those opportunities, those dreams that we have. Even if things have changed since you last listened to episode number 65 and you did set those goals, think about what was involved at that time. Was there a sense of hope, inspiration, courage, maybe even ways in which you were going to evolve, not only as an individual, but as a human being, to be able to create those best moments of enjoyment? Maybe those moments of enjoyment turned into moments of pain, displeasure, maybe even discomfort. I know for myself, I didn't start the new year off on a good note, feeling that I was absolutely sick to my stomach and not feeling the best in my physical sense. It set me back on really setting the momentum into the new year, and it also caused me, a podcast host and even a coach in my own business, to be able to really gain momentum and get to the point where I am now. And even then, we all have ebbs and flows of our energy level and being able to keep up with a rigorous schedule, especially when it has so many demanding aspects to it. Whether that is taking care of a family member, whether that involves your children, maybe it includes other things that you normally don't think about. But the most important thing to consider when it comes to the bigger scheme of what you're trying to achieve is that you have to learn to evolve with the changing times. You have to learn to create not just those opportunities to carve out the time to work on yourself, but you also have to learn to embrace to catch up on the time in which you might have lost because of those other priorities. This episode is not about having a guilt trip, and I'm wondering if you are feeling that. You're feeling a sense of overwhelmedness. Maybe you're not feeling good about who you are right now listening to this and saying to yourself, Josh, I just don't know what to do. I'm at wit's end. And all your encouraging words and even opportunities and words that you're saying that involve around this sense of opportunity doesn't resonate with me. I have to share with you a unique story that happened to me just recently because of me embracing the fact that sometimes we might fall behind, but we're willing to catch back up. Most recently, I celebrated my 37th birthday. And knowing that I had been through the ringer this past year with a lot of different things happening with my business and really learning and adapting to the changing, evolving geometry of what is involved with running such an organization, I had to learn how to evolve my own personal time in not only giving myself grace, but giving myself the opportunity to foster growth, to foster the ways in which I'm able to serve myself with the opportunity that I want to have. What did that mean? It meant taking some time for myself to meditate, to really start examining what are some of the things that are still holding me back after all this time, so that I can continue to grow as a human being and as an adult, for that matter. The age of 36, for me on this earth, has really shown so many different types of opportunities and things that otherwise wouldn't have been shown to me if I didn't go through some of the hard experiences that I had to go through. But each of those moments have an opportunity in itself to learn and foster development in ways that we often don't think about. The things in which we evolve emotionally, physically, and mentally all compel us to think one way for a certain period of time. I like to call that our mantra for that certain length of whatever that time period is. Every time that our mantra changes, we're changing essentially the geometry, the energy, the design in which we're able to move forward, or maybe even move backward. Because in life, there are a series of steps that we take backward before we're able to move forward. Whether the number of steps is equal to the same that we're moving forward to, meaning that we made a net zero contribution to ourselves, doesn't actually mean that in its literal sense. What it means is that we feel that we're not making progress, but we might actually be making progress in other ways that we're not able to intentionally see as a whole. But even with those that have been able to follow through with their goals, the 22% of us that have been successful in being able to stick with our resolutions, do you feel that that change is really starting to radiate in your life? And if you're feeling that it's not, maybe you're not yet doing the things that you really need to do to help sustain that type of change. I always say to my clients, especially going through this transformation in themselves and looking from not just the inside but also the outside, about what is the ammunition that you are using to supply yourself with the opportunity that you have available to you. In layman's terms, what are the things that you are feeding yourself in order for it to not be wasted along the sidelines of not just what you are putting in your body physically, which is food and water, but also what you're nurturing it with, books, other knowledge, maybe even reading articles online. The wide variety of different things that serve us, that create that opportunity, mean that we have to learn from the fact that those aspects that we set ourselves out to do don't always necessarily translate into the success that we envisioned in the first place. So let's look at it this way. The promises that we made to ourselves oftentimes are forgotten because of the changes that we have made in not only in our lives at that present time, but what we're doing now in the future. Maybe you are making progress and you're not quite realizing it yet. I'm not saying that you need to go back to episode number 65 to get a perspective of how to challenge yourself with these goals, but I am asking you to think about all the different things that you might not be thinking about when it comes to the success that you have already achieved thus far. Maybe the goals that weren't achieved were achieved in other ways. For example, maybe helping someone with their finances was actually something of a relationship between that dollar that you gave to a homeless person that was graciously accepting what you had to provide. It could be even donating food to the local food bank. It could be even volunteering some of your time to be able to give back to the bigger community. Remember that there's always an indirect and direct correlation to the things that you're achieving as a whole. And that is what you need to stick to. The promises that you might have made for yourself that you've forgotten may have not been forgotten in the first place. So how can we start our resolutions if we're really dead set and literal about what we want to achieve? How can we make this happen? First, make it bite-sized. Second, get yourself an accountability person so that they will help you stay on track. Third, measure your progress, whether that's in days, hours, minutes, depending on what the goal is. Make it measurable so that you can see physically and mentally that you are doing it. Fourth, help yourself by feeding not just the knowledge that surrounds that goal, but the indirect knowledge that you might help you to gain clarity. Ask for other people's opinions. Ask those that are not vested in your life, maybe even coworkers for that matter, about holding yourself to that level, that standard that you really want to achieve. But fifth, and overall, give yourself grace. I have talked about on numerous episodes about the importance of grace and giving yourself that space to know that sometimes when you fail, it's okay to fail. But it's when you dwell in it, that long extended period of time, especially for my male audience that might be struggling with this is the point that you should pay attention to. We do not have to struggle anymore if we're willing to be open and transparent that we all suffer from different types of problems. The vulnerability of us to be able to share in that context what we're going through does not show a sign of weakness. Even if you did forget about yourself and those promises that you made, just know that it's not too late to start again. It is too early to give up and throw the towel in and wait another 10 months in 2025 to start this process all over again. You can hop back on this bandwagon and still be part of the 22% to make it the 23, the 25, the 30, the 40, the 50% of people that can achieve it and change the statistic around. Because if you're able to do that, if you're able to examine your past and hold yourself accountable with other people and measure that progress, you are going to be successful. But you already have been successful because you're listening to things like this that will help you stay on track. It's not just a restart we're talking about here. It's about restarting what your hope, dreams, and aspirations are. They are all worth it. Don't let any sort of big, monstrous pieces consume you from making that overall progress that you are going to make. Being bite-sized is what will be really important to address not only the ambiguity of your goal that you set out with, but you will be able to get back on that track, to not be stuck anymore, and to keep pressing forward. Because being on this journey means keeping the commitment to move forward. That commitment is my promise to you, not only as a coach, but also somebody that wants to see you be successful. Thanks for listening to episode number 91 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.